What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson. And the New York Rangers, it's breakout season. Brand new head coach Peter Laviolette is going to lead this team this upcoming season, and there are three players that could be in store for huge steps forward in this upcoming season. Big-time breakout campaigns from three players that we've identified this upcoming season, and we're excited to see if these guys can put it all together, bring this talent that they have to the forefront and hopefully have that breakout season. So we're going to go ahead and discuss these three players in today's episode. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. Make sure you go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Rangers. But without further ado, Eric, how are you doing today, my friend? And who is the first player that you want to discuss as a breakout candidate?
I'm doing pretty good. We're just deep into the off season. Not much really happening. Just patiently awaiting next month when preseason really gets going. But there's a lot to look forward to this upcoming season. And I think one of the biggest things that I'm personally looking forward to is seeing Capo Caco playing in the top six. Tarasenko, out of here. Kane, I don't even know where he is. He's just in like the abyss right now. Just no one wants to sign him. So there's going to be a couple of open spots over there on the right wing in the top six waiting to be filled. And more than likely, it's going to be Capo Caco in one of them. A lot of people are projecting that he'll end up on the first line. So it'll be interesting to see him playing alongside Kreider and Zibanejad.
It will definitely be interesting. Capo Caco, 98 points in 239 career games this past season, 82 games played, 18 goals, 22 assists, 40 total points, all the way down on the third line. The kid line has been intact for the last few seasons, and it's been great. The Rangers have won games because of it. The kid line has propelled this team deeper into the postseason than they imagined they could go, and Capo Caco has been a huge part of that. But now the kid line seems like it's inevitably going to be broken up this upcoming season as players like Capo Caco make the move up into the top six. Now, I think that the increased ice time will be perfect for Capo Caco, and I think that he is ready to take that next step. But Eric, we've discussed Capo Caco quite a bit, right? But when you're looking at him and his potential as he does move into the top six, what are some of the benefits of moving him up and increasing his ice time? And what do you think some of the drawbacks might be?
Well, I think the biggest positive is that it's going to give him more opportunities to score. We've said this a couple times throughout the last couple of weeks, where just watching him play, Kako looks like a fully developed NHL player. The way that he skates, protects the puck, stick handles, passes, everything. Really, the only part of his game that he hasn't mastered yet is just finishing these plays and tallying these points. Or last season he got 40 points. That was like more than double his previous career record. So like the stage is pretty much set for him. He's like developed his game properly and pretty well throughout the last like 4 years, I think, where he's headed into like year 5 now at this point. And he has a lot to prove as well. We signed him to a 2-year bridge deal, the second year being this upcoming season. So he's going to have the opportunity to score. He just has one final piece of his game to play. And he has it's going to happen on the first line. He's going to have more ice time, more opportunities to play.
100%. I think that the new opportunities, he had a lot of great opportunities last season, and he created a lot of those opportunities, just didn't finish the play. Like he would attack, he would dump it off, or he would take a shot and it just wouldn't go in. And I think that having more opportunities just means more points inevitably for him, as long as he can continue to be aggressive and, really keep attacking and creating those opportunities for himself. I think Capo Caco really can be a special player this year, especially when you consider that he'll be playing with some tremendous talent up there on the first line. I think that him and Mika Zibanejad could be a really nasty combo. But let's go ahead and talk about the second breakout candidate, Eric, and that's the man on the thumbnail, the man who's right underneath your chin on the graphics over here, Filip Chytil. The beautiful Filip Chytil. 138 points in 327 games played throughout his career, 74 games played in 2023 with 22 goals, 23 assists, 45 total points. Actually did have more points than Capo Caco last year, but unlikely to be moving up into the top six. Now, how is that possible? Why is that the case? Because the Rangers are stacked at center. They've got Mika Zibanejad and they've got Vincent Trocheck. So the likelihood of Filip Chytil moving into the top six is pretty slim unless he or Trocheck decides to change positions. Now, we talked about this in our last episode. If Trocheck were to move over to right wing, Filip Chytil could move into the top six. But, Eric, as you said, it might benefit the Rangers to keep him down in the bottom six in order to maintain some level of depth in the Rangers' lines.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that it's hard to like predict what would happen because I see all of the benefits and positives of having both of them in the top six. You know, Trocheck is our best centerman on the team face-off wise. So like to have him play as center and then have like a young star like Heedle who's like in the process of like breaking out and just adding points and points and points every season playing alongside him, and then also Artemi Panarin. That's like an amazing second line. But then it's just the question is who knows what's going to happen down there then? Because then you're going to have like Barclay Goodrow as the third line center, and then it's just like who would even do it on the fourth line? So it's just like I have no idea what Laviolette and Chris Drury would put together if that were to happen. There's just they would have to have some sort of plan. You know, you can't just like throw all your eggs in one basket on the top six and just hope that you score more points than the other team. You know, you're going to need like those skilled players down there as well. But even if Heedle were to stay down in the third line, you know, I could still see him just exploding for even more points. He managed to put up 45 points this last season in only 74 games, you know, 6 games that he missed from injury. Who knows what would have happened if he played those 6 games? That's a lot of games. And then especially coming back from injury, he wasn't 100% perfect for like that first few weeks back. So 45 points in 74 games. I think if he played a full 82 game healthy next season with like increased players alongside him, another year of experience, I could see him going for 60 or 70 points, even on the third line.
Even on the third line, you think that he could crush up to 70 total points?
If he
That seems
stays
like a
healthy,
pretty that seems like a pretty massive total. But yeah, I think if you're right, if you look at the way that he was pacing out last year, he did only miss 8 games, but he did finish with 45. As you mentioned, the injuries kind of lingered, kind of held him back even when he was back on the ice. But Eric, when you're kind of looking at him being stuck in that bottom six, but not necessarily stuck as we just mentioned, and then Vincent Trocheck as well. What do you think the ice time split is going to be between those two guys? Because yeah, Trocheck's going to be on the second line, so you would assume that he's going to get more ice time. But we've seen in the past there's been games where guys in the bottom six get more ice time than the guys in the top six just because they're playing better. So how much of a difference in terms of ice time do you think that we're going to see from Trocheck and Hedel? Because I think that realistically, Laviolette, if he wants to, could position this team in a way where they're playing pretty similar amount of time on ice.
yeah, I mean, I would expect it to be relatively similar, just not even between the second and third line centers, but honestly between most of the top nine like players in total. Where like, it's like a similar thing that the Rangers kind of worked with a little bit. I think it was early last season where the first line, second line, and third line were all pretty much like even, but only like a couple minutes difference in ice time. And then it was just like the fourth line that had that big drop off in ice time. So I could easily see something like that happening again, depending on how they craft these lines, is just how overall skilled that third line is. But you know, at the same time, I could also see Trocheck and Hedel just being like swapped back and forth, like game in and game out. It's like, oh, Hedel, you've been playing good. Spend the next 2 games up on the second line. Let Trocheck just like ease back on the third line for a little bit, and then Trocheck starts playing well, and like just back and forth all season. I could easily see that happening, which you know I see a lot of positives in because it gives both players the time to shine. But then at the same time, as you get deeper into the season, you're gonna kind of want to finalize some lines and really have some chemistry and like strategic planning build up as you get closer to the playoffs.
Well, I think that's kind of what Peter Laviolette is here to provide, right? Because we've discussed with him and the difference in his coaching style from what we know based on what we saw from Gerard Gallant, we know that Laviolette is going to be much more structured, right? At kind of as you alluded to there, needing that structure, needing a true game plan in place when you get to the final portion of the regular season and definitely into the postseason. Because what we saw in these past couple of years with the Rangers, a little bit too much of a free form playing style, not enough of a game plan. So I think that kind of what you're alluding to right there, Heedle and the Rangers needing that set game plan and that structure, that's something that Laviolette's going to provide to him. So, as we talk about banking on a Heedle breakout season, the key to success here, the key to having a breakout season for Philip Heedle, it just might be the new head coach, Peter Laviolette. So I'm excited about that. I think that that was the right hiring. We kind of delved into some of these different options that the Rangers had earlier in the offseason. We talked about Laviolette. We talked about Knobloch. We took a look at a lot of these guys. But, a little off topic here before we dive into our third candidate, though, Eric, how are you warming up to the idea of Peter Laviolette? How do you feel about him as the hiring? Do you think now, I mean, it's Obviously, too soon to say because we haven't seen the team actually play. But from everything that we've heard, everything that we're seeing with these players, the way that they're responding to him, and what we keep reading about Laviolette, are you feeling confident in him going into his first season as head coach of the Rangers?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I remember when we first originally signed him to be the coach, I was a little 50-50 on it because he seemed to be like eerily similar playing style to Gallant, and it had us questioning just like, well, like what was the point here? You know, like, we just got like rid of one guy for another guy who's going to do the same exact thing. But despite like a lot of the similarities, it does seem like the big difference is that Laviolette does have a plan. Like he has some sort of strategy to really bring this team together and just like utilize specific skills and different players and always have a game plan. Unlike Gallant, who is kind of just like head on out there, do your thing. And if you don't do it, there's going to be zero punishments. Like I don't know. Under Laviolette, it's going to be like, oh, Lafreniere, you just won 6 playoff games without scoring a single point. You're not playing in Game 7. Like Gallant did not have that like common sense to make changes when needed.
Yeah, and ultimately that's what doomed his time here with New York, and now he departs elsewhere as the Rangers and Gallant agreed mutually to part ways. But I think that in reality, the Rangers decided that they wanted to move on, and now we've got Peter Laviolette, who we're confident in. And one of the things with Laviolette, he's very good at getting those star veteran players to perform well. But one thing that we need to see is whether or not he can get the next level out of a young player like Brennan Othman, right? Brendan Othman, 2023 in the OHL, 56 games played across two teams, the Petes and the Firebirds, 29 goals, 38 assists, 67 total points, more than 1 goal per game, 6 points in 7 games for the Canada under 20 team. So you're looking at Brendan Othman, Eric. We've discussed him quite a bit, talked about why we think he's a massive breakout candidate for the Rangers this upcoming season. First of all, do you think that he makes the NHL roster, or do you think that he gets trapped in the AHL? And if he does make the NHL roster, what's his role in this New York Rangers team?
I think there's a very, very high chance that we could see Brennan Othman at some point this season. You know, he plays over on the left side, so that's when it gets a little confusing because there's not really any open spots on the left. You know, you have Kreider, you have Panarin, you have Lafreniere, but like I think me and a lot of Rangers fans just have this idea that Barclay Goodrow's time on the Rangers is extremely limited. We're like, probably by the trade deadline, he probably won't be on the Rangers anymore. And, you know, if that were to happen, I don't know what the return package would be, but there's at some point in the season, there's going to be an open spot on the roster that needs to be filled. So, like, I'm not saying that Brendan Othman is just going to, like, impress us so much during, like, training camp and preseason that he has, like, an opening night NHL position. But I think that at some point throughout the season, we will see him, whether it be due to a trade or an injury call up or anything. I think he's going to get a shot at some point. And if he were to be on the team, like, you know, we're not going to expect anything crazy out of him, like an instant first line spot where he's going point per game in the NHL, but a nice, like, third line position, maybe take Lafreniere's spot over on the third line, left position spot. And if he plays a decent amount of games, you know, maybe like 20, 30 points throughout the course of like 3/4 of a season, I think that'd be pretty nice.
Yeah, I think so too. Listen, the sky is the limit with Brennan Othman. Like what we've seen from him, there's so much talent there. I think that he could start his career down on that fourth line for the Rangers as early as this season. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if his time on ice just continues to increase throughout the year because he looks like one of those players that just gets better as time goes on, you know, and that's what we've seen from him developing over in the OHL. That's what we saw from him last year at Rangers training camp. And from everything that we've read so far, he seems to be fitting in nicely at this year's training camp as well. So I have a lot of confidence in Othman going into this upcoming season. Out of all the 3 breakout candidates that we mentioned, yeah, I'm excited about Capo. I'm excited about Filipino, but I'm thrilled about Brennan Othman. I think that this kid has superstar potential, and I can't wait to watch him finally make his NHL debut, hopefully this season. And I think that he really could be a special player for the Rangers. But Eric, out of all 3 of these players that we mentioned, Capo, Filipino, Brennan Othman, who excites you the most, and who are you most banking on to have that breakout year?
It might be the most boring answer, but I'm definitely most excited about Capo Caco. Like, I just, as a fan who like watched the draft lottery where we got second and then we drafted him and then just continuous, just like holding out hope. I mean, like, he's not a bust, I swear. Like, he's gonna break out one of these days. And then now it's just like it's after like 4 years. It's the stage is set. Like it's going to happen this year if it's going to happen at all. So I'm excited to see that.
As am I. I think we all are excited to see Capo Caco have that breakout season, but we are excited as well for Filipino and Brennan Othman and anyone else that we think could be taking a big step forward. Of course, the New York Rangers hopefully embarking on their next playoff journey this upcoming season. Got a lot of things to fix up here, but some improvements with veteran experience in the middle of those lines and also some young players. If they could take that next step and have these breakout seasons that we're predicting, the Rangers can be a damn good team in a very competitive Metro division this upcoming year. And of course, we're excited to cover everything regarding the New York Rangers right here on Fireside Rangers. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, you're not, because we don't post it there. That's only for Fireside Giants. That's my fault. But make sure you go ahead and follow us on all of our Fireside Rangers social media accounts at Fireside Rangers. And without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.